You know, I talked about this in a recent live stream a couple of weeks ago. And is it possible for this hobby that we love, fish keeping, is it possible that this hobby could at some point in the future become extremely restricted or even illegal? And don't think for a second that there aren't people out there that would like to make it illegal, that would like to prevent us from being able to keep fish, and who have ideas about how keeping fish is cruel or something like that. But the way that we can end up being the ones that make it illegal is by doing something which I consider to be very irresponsible and very stupid. And that is to take a fish and put it into a local waterway. So this video is actually, I don't know, just a reminder, a public service, a plea. There's a thing called the Lacey Act. It's legislation that restricts what can come into the United States. I agree with the Lacey Act. I don't want cobras in our parks. I don't want tigers walking around in Yosemite, right? But that Lacey Act can turn into something extremely oppressive if, as fish keepers, we make boneheaded mistakes. And by boneheaded mistakes, I mean putting fish that we no longer want into a local waterway. And here's an example right here. You can see here in Texas, somebody didn't like their OB, their orange blossom or orange blotch or whatever you call them, the OB African cichlid, and thought it would be a good idea to throw it into a waterway in Texas. Now this fish is being considered an invasive species. People are catching it when they fish. Probably other fish are eating it, which means that they're probably not going after what they normally would go after. And so it's going to cause a change in the balance, the ecosystem balance of the local waterways. Woohoo! Let's give these guys some of these. These are these big old giant monster extreme. Look at the size of those things. Some of the bigger fish love them. The Oscars in my American tank love them. I just gave a few of them for the bigger guys. Anyway, please, if you have a local fish store, tell them to put a sign by the exit that says, never release a fish into a local waterway. In Florida, the manatees come in to the warm water to enjoy the warm water coming out of vents and things that are going on in Florida. And the tourists love to come see them. And those manatees are getting destroyed by plecos, by big green plecos that have been introduced into the waterways. They're eating the slime coat off of them. They're creating sores on their bodies. And now there's a reward. There's a reward for people who catch plecos. And you can turn them in, and you kill them and you turn them in. These plecos are 15, 20 inches, 20 inches. And so they're just covering these manatees. So in Florida, the Florida waterways, you can catch red tiger Oscars. And I guess you could eat them if you want to. But you know how that started. That started by somebody buying an Oscar, putting it into their 29-gallon tank, and 4 months later saying this isn't working out, and not wanting to take it back to the local fish store. Or maybe the local fish store didn't want it, or maybe they never even thought of taking it there. But now we have Oscars living in the Florida in the Florida lakes and rivers, and who knows what they're disrupting. What is it that they're eating and predating, and what's predating them, and so it just messes everything up. So somebody could latch on to that, use the Lacey Act, which is already in place. It's been in place since what, the 30s, I think, and all of a sudden just add a whole bunch of fish to the list, and we're not going to be able to get clown loaches or any of the kind of fish that are imported because it'll get all blocked, and that'll make a huge impact on small and large fish vendors. The only ones that'll probably survive would be the local breeders, and it'll just make a very huge impact on our hobby. We already have several fish that we probably would love to eat. I mean, love to eat. Well, maybe. No, we have several fish that we would love to keep. Your red arowanas, your snakeheads. I mean, there's some beautiful fish out there. You can't get them in. They're on that list. So, unless you want to have some of the fish that we consider common in the hobby added to that list, tell your friends, your fellow fish keepers, tell your local clubs, tell your fish store to promote never release a fish into a local waterway, okay? And let's keep enjoying this hobby for hundreds of years because we were smart, okay? Thanks, my friend. I got a lot more tanks to feed. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.